Great to have everyone back for another NRG Oncology podcast episode. For today's episode, Stephen and I are going to try to shed light on a very important aspect of NRG Oncology, which is the membership committee. While a lot of us might not know everything that the membership committee does, we all benefit from their work behind the scenes to grow and maintain our organization.
So, our guest today is an old friend and mentor of mine who I've known actually for about 15 years since I did my residency training at University of Texas Southwestern in Dallas, where he taught me much of what I know about gynecologic cancers. Dr. Miller is the Dallas Foundation Chair and Professor of Gynecologic Oncology at UT Southwestern, and he's also the current chair of the NRG Oncology Membership Committee. He's been involved with NRG Oncology since its inception and involved with the legacy group, the Gynecologic Oncology Group, long before that. Dr. Miller, could you give us a brief overview of your career with the GOG or the Gynecologic Oncology Group, as well as NRG Oncology?
Well, thank you, Dr. Chun, Dr. Hankey, and thank you for having me and perhaps shedding some light on sort of the machinations of how we keep things going at Energy Oncology. You're exactly right. I've been involved in cooperative group trials since 1985 when I submitted my first concept to the then Gynecologic Oncology Group and went to my first meeting. And so far, I have not yet missed a meeting. So I'm a modest accomplishment, but that I'm proud of. And certainly it's been a very fun thing for me to do, for clinicians to be able to contribute to science, to make a difference for our patients through clinical trials. Started off, you were working mainly through the Gynecologic Oncology Group's Uterine Corpus Committee, which is now a subcommittee of NRG. I became chair of that committee in 2003 and 2018 with the change to NRG Oncology when our groups got absorbed. Then Dr. Mantle asked me to serve as deputy group chair for membership and research integrity, for which I'm also the chief integrity officer, for which I hope you will never need to confront. It has been a source of great satisfaction for me, and I hope I have made some contributions to the group and for our patients.
Just to kind of back you up a little bit, one of the purpose of this podcast is just to kind of get layman's terms out to really all our stakeholders. You say uterine corpus. What exactly is that?
That's a good question because we divide up GYN, and very interestingly, in the uterus, those tumors that arise in the cervix, the opening of the uterus, appear to have a different biology, frequently different chemo and radiation sensitivities than tumors that arise in the endometrium or in the body of the uterus. That is a division which actually reflects, we think, tumor biology, and that the cervix cancers tend to behave more similarly to vagina and vulva as opposed to behaving similarly to the endometrial or uterine lining tumors or ovarian tumors. So that's sort of why we made that discrimination.
I have to say, your track record for attending NRG meetings in a row is incredibly impressive. You've been to more meetings in sequence than yours that I've been alive, so I'm
I've
astounded, and I have no doubt that you have made a lot of meaningful contributions with all of those years. That's wonderful and incredible.
been a blast, and hopefully we'll continue.
I love it. The
Mhm.
success of energy and energy oncology trials depends really on institutions, both community and academic, being willing to be members of our organization. And your committee is really charged with leading that. How has the membership of energy oncology changed or grown over the years?
In 2018, we had 215 members. Now we have 200 main members, full members. But what has changed is one is affiliates. And so we've probably had a 30% increase of affiliates to our main member institutions, So now NRG oncology trials are available at over 2,400 sites around the globe. Most main member institutions have a number of affiliates, that number is steadily increasing. But more importantly is what those members have done. And so we have seen a significant increase in the number of patients who have been put on trials. And even more importantly, showing a sign of how important our members hold their membership in NRG Oncology, they attribute or credit another 1,500 to 2,000 patients to NRG that they've accrued from other groups' trials. So NRG Oncology is now all NCI designated cancer centers, all NCCN institutions, and all LAPS institutions are members of NRG Oncology.
So, for those of us in the audience who are unfamiliar with the membership committee at NRG that you lead, could you also just give us a brief overview what exactly the committee does on a regular basis to
Mhm.
keep all the member sites happy? And what sort of challenges and problems does your committee tackle, let's say on a regular basis?
Well, let's focus on keeping members happy first. So that's why we have the voting members committee. So to be a member of NRG, you must accrue 10 patients per year, of which 3 could be from one of the legacy foundations, RTOG, NSABP, GOG foundations. But you must accrue 10 patients. So our voting members, which we recognize as the leading member institutions of the group, that number is 25. And so if you're a voting member institution, then you essentially determine the leadership of the group. That is determined by the voting members. And again, any changes in the bylaws determined by the voting members and the board of directors. So the voting members meet every meeting, and that's the opportunity for the membership to have a one-on-one FaceTime with the group chairs and to bring up problems with the group chairs, try and find solutions to things, strategize about issues to deal with. So voting members is really the mechanism by which we here, the group chairs here, how we can do a better job for our patients and a better job in our clinical trials. Now, what the membership committee mainly does is look at applications for new members to join the organization. We have very set out criteria, 10 accruals a year to become a main member institution. You have to have meet certain standards of timeliness and compliance of your documents. And so we have to make judgments about that. Most of the time, it's not too hard, but sometimes we've had institutions that have had previous problems and now they have new leadership. Do we think this is going to be enough to, allow them to do a good job? And that's what we're mainly focused on. It's trying to predict correctly who's going to do a good job for the group, do a good job for our patients, make sure that our funding agencies trust and can count on us to do the right thing. And then occasionally the membership committee has to deal with conflict of interest problems, which fortunately is a very rare thing. So making sure that that's clear so that if somebody appears to have an industry conflict, we make that apparent. We take a look at that. We see if that's going to be a problem, recommend, some adjustments if that's necessary. And then we also have a role, which we have not yet had to do, where if somebody's being a problem or not performing well, some sanction must be applied. So fortunately, I haven't had to do that yet.
What sort of, I'm really curious now. What sort of sanction, could you
Kick you
apply?
out of the group. Kick you out of the group. We could put you on double secret probation. You can't put any patients on study. Flunk a couple audits. I mean, We try to make our interventions educational and help people to do a better job, but sometimes, fortunately, not very often, but sometimes you have to invoke the stick. We prefer to operate with a carrot, but sometimes you have to get a stick out to help people do the right thing and go in the right direction.
I really like that analogy. And here I was thinking that it was going to be a misbehavior at the annual meeting party or something like that.
Uh, well, fortunately, that hasn't risen to that level I'm not charged with dragging drunken members out of the reception. So most people are pretty well behaved and have standards of behavior that the expectations, people not to be harassed, that they be heard fairly. Fortunately, we've not had to deal with anything like that, but that technically, could come under our purview. So again, the less I have to do, the better we're working.
So I kind of wanted to turn to a slightly different topic. And this is really aligned with some of the demographic shifts we've seen in the United States in the past 30 years. Really since the 1960s and 70s, there's been a huge population increase in this country. And this has been accompanied by growth of the American suburb. And I think, 1960s, the age of DeBakey, where you could reasonably expect almost all patients to come into a medical center
Mhm.
for treatment. That was, perhaps a reasonable expectation, but today, with all the suburbs and basically all the major cities, I think the estimates are that over half of patients are now being treated in the suburbs. What is the membership committee's strategy in terms of developing member sites in suburban or community networks? Because I think it's very clear there's been a pattern, there's been a shift of patients wanting to be treated closer to home.
Yeah, because I have patients that come from Lubbock and West Texas, 300 miles, because they have means to come see me. And a lot of patients don't have that means. And so it's important to, if we can perform a trial in the high academic institution, that may or may not be something that can be accomplished in the community. And so we need to develop treatments that can be used by oncologists to treat patients in the community. And actually, probably two-thirds of our patients, two-thirds of NRG oncology accruals are not from the LAPS institutions, the lead academic sites. It's from either the NCORP sites or from the main member institutions, which are usually mostly hospital-based. And so that's a significant part of our accrual and has been. Two-thirds of our patients are from MCORP or main member institutions, and only one-third are from the lead academic site. So we're there with it. We have done things to help make it accessible to community cancer centers that want to do it. We recently, last year, decreased our minimum patient accrual from 15 to 10 to make it a little easier for community cancer centers to come in. Obviously, they're incentivized, particularly if they want to be a Commission on Cancer recognized cancer center, which is a community designation that is sort of managed by the American College of Surgeons, of helping community hospitals elevate their cancer program, get it organized. And one of those criteria is participating in clinical trials, cooperative group clinical trials. So we want to try and make that as, it's a painful process, but at least make it least painful. And so that oncologists and their cancer centers who want to do it, make it as easy as possible for them to do a good job.
So let's say right now there's a cancer center out there listening to this podcast episode, and now they're wanting to become the newest NRG oncology member. What should they do? Who should they contact? Who do they call within the organization to get the ball rolling?
Should we give them your cell phone?
Well, you could. I do have a screener on it, but probably the easiest thing to do is go to the website. And so on the NRG oncology website, which is and can be accessed by the general public, is the criteria for membership, is the application for membership. And if I was at a community cancer center or even an academic place that wants to get involved in NRG oncology, because recall that any participant in any of the NCTN groups, the National Clinical Trial Network groups, can put a patient on an NRG trial. And likewise, we can put patients on ECOG or SWOG trials. But if you want to be at the table, determining what studies we're going to do, what's the path, where are we going to take clinical trials, you want to be part of leadership, and then you need to be a NRG member. And we are trying to be as welcoming as possible to everybody who we think is going to do a good job. So you go to the website, look at the criteria, get the application. You're welcome to call me or Karen Beauparai, who's our Director of Membership Services. She's happy to talk to anybody who's interested in becoming a member. But practically, what I do is I would then look at the list of other member sites, because the best and most successful path to becoming an NRG member, full member, is having been an NRG affiliate of a main member. So you come in sort of under the supervision or mentorship of a present main member of an institution. You can benefit from their prior mistakes. They can help you get your infrastructure set up, because that's required to do clinical trials, help you problem solve. And so, I would look at that main member list and see if I have any friends or mentors on that list, then call them up and see if they'd be interested in me affiliating with them. That's probably the path, the most successful path to getting involved in NRG oncology or any of the cooperative groups these days.
Well, Dr. Miller, I just really want to thank you again. This has been actually great insight for me. I mean, I'm familiar to some degree with the work of the membership committee, but I feel like I've learned quite a bit today, during this podcast recording. Just always a pleasure to talk to you, old friend and mentor.
Well, thank you very much. It was fun. I hope it was useful for people, and perhaps keep a few people awake. So.
Again, this is Dr. David Miller, the chair of the NRG Oncology Membership Committee. Uh, this podcast is supported by the NRG Oncology Group, which receives grant funding from the National Cancer Institutes of Health, but content does not necessarily reflect that of the National Institutes of Health. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and happy clinical trials.